I was standing in my childhood kitchen on December 15th, holding my newborn daughter Lily, when my mother looked me straight in the eye and said, "Skip Christmas this year, Elena. We'll just pretend you don't exist." I was stunned. This was my first Christmas as a mother, my baby's first holiday season, and my own family was erasing me from it. But I trusted my instincts, walked away, and built something they never expected. When they found out what I created in the year they pretended I didn't exist, they came crawling back. But by then, it was too late. They never saw my success coming, and they definitely never saw my response. The plan was supposed to be simple. Drive to Maplewood Heights with my 3-month-old daughter for our annual Whitmore family Christmas gathering, show off the baby, eat too much ham, exchange gifts that nobody really wanted, and pretend everything was normal. It was going to be predictable, maybe a little boring, which honestly sounded perfect for my first holiday as a new mom. I was exhausted. Lily had been colicky for weeks. I was still recovering from a difficult delivery, and my husband Marcus was deployed overseas until February. But family was family, and Christmas at the Whitmore house had been a tradition for 30 years. Missing it wasn't an option. Or so I thought. Looking back now, I should have seen the signs, the phone calls that stopped returning, the group text messages about Christmas planning that somehow never included me, the way my sister Veronica's voice got tight and strange whenever I mentioned bringing Lily to meet everyone. But I was drowning in new motherhood, running on 3 hours of sleep and leftover adrenaline from the hardest year of my life. Marcus had been deployed to Kandahar province just 2 weeks before my due date. I'd gone through labor alone, brought our daughter home to an empty house, and spent the first 3 months of her life learning how to be a mother while my husband was halfway around the world. The military wives in our neighborhood in Riverside Commons had been incredible. Sarah Chen from 3 houses down brought casseroles twice a week. Jessica Morrison watched Lily so I could shower without worrying. And Captain Reynolds' wife, Maria, had become like a sister to me, understanding the unique hell of new motherhood during deployment in ways my actual family never tried to. But blood family was different, or it was supposed to be. I had this image in my head of bringing Lily home to Maplewood Heights for Christmas. My parents, Robert and Patricia Whitmore, would melt when they saw their first grandchild. My sister, Veronica, and her husband Derek would fuss over their new niece. Even my brother Cameron, usually too cool for family sentiment, would soften at the sight of a baby. It was going to be healing. After years of feeling like the odd one out in the Whitmore family dynamic, motherhood was supposed to be my entry ticket into the club. Finally, something that would make me matter to them. I spent weeks planning. I bought the most adorable Christmas outfit for Lily, a red velvet dress with tiny pearl buttons and matching headband. I researched safe travel tips for newborns, invested in the most expensive car seat system, even practiced folding and unfolding the travel crib until I could do it in under 2 minutes. The gifts took me longer to choose than they should have. For my father, a leather-bound journal embossed with his initials. He'd always talked about writing his memoirs from his days as a corporate executive at Hartwell Industries. For my mother, a cashmere scarf in her favorite shade of burgundy, soft enough for a baby to touch when she inevitably wanted to hold Lily. For Veronica, a spa gift set because she'd been stressed about her new promotion at Blackstone Marketing. For Derek, a craft beer tasting kit because he'd gotten into brewing. For Cameron, the latest noise-canceling headphones because he was always complaining about his roommates in his graduate program at Westfield University. I even bought a special photo album to document Lily's first Christmas with the family. I had this vision of everyone gathering around the tree, passing her from person to person, her little face lit up by the twinkling lights, creating memories that would last forever. The drive from Riverside Commons to Maplewood Heights usually took 4 hours. With a baby, I planned for 6. I mapped out every rest stop, every gas station, every place I could pull over if Lily needed to eat or got fussy. I packed enough diapers for a week, even though we were only staying 3 days. Formula, bottles, burp cloths, extra clothes in 3 different sizes because I could never predict how she'd grown from week to week. Marcus called me the night before I was supposed to leave. The connection was terrible, crackling and cutting. out every few seconds, but I could hear the exhaustion in his voice even through the static. "I wish I could be there with you," he said, and I knew he meant it. "Are you sure you're ready for this? 3 days with your family, alone with Lily." I laughed, though it came out more tired than amused. "It's 3 days, not 3 months. Besides, they're going to be so distracted by the baby, they won't have time to do their usual Whitmore family drama." "If you say so," Marcus replied. But there was something in his tone that made me pause. "Just promise me you'll come home. If it gets weird, don't feel like you have to stay just because it's Christmas." "It won't get weird," I insisted. "This is different. They're grandparents now. Everything changes when there's a baby." The silence on the other end of the line stretched long enough that I wondered if we'd lost connection. Then Marcus said, quietly, "Elena, baby, your family doesn't change. People don't just become different because circumstances change. They become more of who they already were." I should have listened to him. Marcus had always seen my family more clearly than I did. He'd grown up in a house where love was expressed through actions, not words, where support was given without conditions, where family meant safety instead of performance. He'd met the Whitmores exactly 3 times before we got married, and each time he'd come away with the same concerned expression. Like he'd watched me walk into traffic and couldn't understand why I kept doing it, but I was determined. This was going to be different. This time, I had something they wanted: their first grandchild, their legacy, their chance to be the doting grandparents they'd always talked about becoming someday. The morning of December 15th dawned gray and cold. Lily had actually slept for 4 consecutive hours the night before, which felt like a Christmas miracle in itself. I got up early, showered while she was still sleeping, and spent extra time on my appearance. I wanted to look like I had everything together. Like new motherhood was bringing out the best in me instead of leaving me hollow-eyed and running on fumes. I chose my outfit carefully: dark jeans that mostly fit again, a soft green sweater that hid the fact that my body still didn't feel like my own, and boots with enough of a heel to make me feel human again. I even put on makeup, something I'd barely bothered with since Lily was born. Loading the car took longer than expected. The trunk of my Honda Pilot, which had seemed enormous when Marcus and I bought it, could bear. I was standing in my childhood kitchen on December 15th, holding my newborn daughter Lily, when my mother looked me straight in the eye and said, "Skip Christmas this year, Elena. We'll just pretend you don't exist." I was stunned. This was my first Christmas as a mother, my baby's first holiday season, and my own family was erasing me from it. But I trusted my instincts, walked away, and built something they never expected. When they found out what I created in the year they pretended I didn't exist, they came crawling back. But by then, it was too late. They never saw my success coming, and they definitely never saw my response. The plan was supposed to be simple: drive to Maplewood Heights with my 3-month-old daughter for our annual Whitmore family Christmas gathering, show off the baby, eat too much ham, exchange gifts that nobody really wanted, and pretend everything was normal. It was going to be predictable, maybe a little boring, which honestly sounded perfect for my first holiday as a new mom. I was exhausted. Lily had been colicky for weeks. I was still recovering from a difficult delivery, and my husband Marcus was deployed overseas until February. But family was family, and Christmas at the Whitmore house had been a tradition for 30 years. Missing it wasn't an option. Or so I thought. Looking back now, I should have seen the signs, the phone calls that stopped returning, the group text messages about Christmas planning that somehow never included me, the way my sister Veronitza's voice got tight and strange whenever I mentioned bringing Lily to meet everyone. But I was drowning in new motherhood, running on 3 hours of sleep and leftover adrenaline from the hardest year of my life. Marcus had been deployed to Kandahar province just 2 weeks before my due date. I'd gone through labor alone, brought our daughter home to an empty house, and spent the first 3 months. "Can you just tell me what's going on?" I tried to keep my voice level, but Lily must have sensed my tension because she started to fuss in the back seat. "We'll talk when you get here," my mother said firmly. "Drive safely." She hung up before I could respond. The last 2 hours of the drive felt eternal. Lily woke up hungry and screaming just as we hit construction traffic outside Thornfield, the town just before Maplewood Heights. I had to pull over at a gas station that smelled like stale coffee and industrial cleaner to feed her, trying not to think about the complicated conversation waiting for me. The Whitmore family house sat at the end of Elmwood Drive, a colonial revival with white columns and black shutters that my mother spent significant time and money maintaining. Growing up, I'd been proud of that house. It looked like the kind of place where happy families lived, where Christmas mornings were magical and Sunday dinners brought everyone together around a table laden with home-cooked food and easy laugh. The reality had never quite matched the image, but the house itself remained beautiful. As I pulled into the circular driveway, I could see the Christmas decorations were already up, garland wrapped around the columns. A wreath on the front door, white lights outlining the roofline. It looked exactly like a Christmas card, but something felt off. Usually, when family was coming to visit, especially when someone was bringing a baby, my mother would be at the front door before the car was even parked. Today, the house looked quiet, almost closed off. I gathered Lily from her car seat, grabbed the diaper bag, and left everything else in the car for now. Whatever conversation was waiting for me inside. I wanted to get through it before I committed to unloading our entire life onto their front lawn. The front door was unlocked, as always. I called out as I stepped into the foyer, my voice echoing off the marble floors and crystal chandelier. "Mom, Dad, we're here." Footsteps from the kitchen, and then my mother appeared, looking perfectly put together as always. Patricia Whitmore was the kind of woman who wore pearls to the grocery store and had never been seen in public without lipstick. Even now, at 62, she maintained the kind of effortless elegance that made other women feel underdressed in her presence, but today, she looked uncomfortable. Not nervous, exactly, but like she was bracing for something unpleasant. "Elena," she said, and her voice was warm but careful. "You made good time. Where is everyone?" I asked, shifting Lily to my other arm. "I thought Veronica and Derek were staying here this week." "They are," she said. "They're just out right now, Christmas shopping. And Dad, golf," she said quickly. "You know how he is about his Saturday rounds." I knew my father well enough to know that he didn't play golf in December in Pennsylvania. But before I could call her on it, she was already moving toward the living room, gesturing for me to follow. The living room looked exactly as it had for the past 15 years, cream-colored furniture that was beautiful but completely impractical for actual living. A fireplace that was never used because my mother worried about soot on the carpet, and approximately 300 throw pillows that served no purpose except to be moved from place to place. The Christmas tree stood in its usual corner, an 8-foot Fraser fir decorated in my mother's signature gold and burgundy color scheme. It was gorgeous and perfectly symmetrical and looked like something out of a magazine, but there was something strange about it that I couldn't quite identify. "Sit down, honey," my mother said, settling into her usual chair, the wingback that faced the room like a throne. I remained standing, swaying slightly to keep Lily calm. "Mom, what's going on? You're acting weird," she sighed, clasping her hands in her lap in a gesture I recognized from childhood. It meant she was about to say something I wouldn't like, and she was gathering her courage. "Elena, you have to understand, this isn't personal." Those 6 words hit me like ice water. Nothing good had ever followed "this isn't personal" in the history of human conversation. What isn't personal? Christmas this year is going to be different. More intimate. Just the core family. I stared at her. "I am core family. I'm your daughter." "Of course you are. But you have your own family now, with Marcus and the baby. And we thought it might be better if you started your own traditions." "Mom," my voice was very quiet. "Are you uninviting me from Christmas?" "I'm not uninviting you. I'm just suggesting that maybe this year, with everything that's happened, it might be better if you celebrated at home." "Everything that's happened," I repeated. "You mean me having a baby?" She shifted in her chair, and for the first time, she wouldn't meet my eyes. "It's not about the baby." "Then what is it about?" The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Lily started to fuss, and I bounced her gently. trying to keep my own emotions from bleeding into her tiny world. Finally, my mother spoke. Veronica is going through a difficult time right now. What kind of difficult time? She and Derek have been trying to have a baby for 3 years. The fertility treatments haven't been working. She's had 2 miscarriages this year alone. The words hit me like a physical blow. I had no idea. Veronica and I hadn't been close in years. But I never imagined she was going through something so devastating while I was wrapped up in my own pregnancy and new motherhood. Mom, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Why didn't anyone tell me? She didn't want people to know. You know how private she is, but she's my sister. I could have helped. Or at least been there for her. My mother's expression hardened slightly. Elena, you've been a little preoccupied this past year. I've been pregnant and then had a newborn. Of course I've been preoccupied. And we understand that. But Veronica has been struggling, and seeing you with the baby, especially during Christmas, it's just too hard for her right now. I stood there, holding my 3-month-old daughter, trying to process what I was hearing. So your solution is to exclude me from Christmas, to pretend I don't exist? It's not about pretending you don't exist. It's about being sensitive to what your sister is going through. What about being sensitive to what I'm going through? The words came out sharper than I intended. My husband is deployed. I'm a new mother dealing with everything alone. This is my first Christmas as a mom, and you want me to spend it by myself. You're not alone. You have Lily. The casual cruelty of that statement took my breath away. As if a 3-month-old baby could provide the kind of support and companionship I needed. As if being physically present with another person meant you weren't emotionally isolated. Mom, please. Can't we figure something else out? I'll stay in a hotel if the house is too crowded. I'll come for just Christmas Day. I'll do whatever you need, but please don't ask me to miss Christmas entirely. She shook her head slowly. Veronica specifically asked for this, Elena. She needs to heal, and having you here with the baby, it's just a painful reminder of what she can't have. So I should hide my daughter, pretend she doesn't exist so. Veronica feels better, for now, yes, just until she's in a better place emotionally. I felt something crack inside my chest, not break, exactly, but crack. Like the first line in a windshield that you know is going to spread until the whole thing shatters. And how long is that supposed to last? Months? Years? Am I supposed to keep my daughter away from her own family indefinitely? Don't be dramatic, Elena. It's just Christmas. It's not just Christmas. The words exploded out of me, and Lily startled in my arms, her little face scrunching up in preparation for tears. It's her first Christmas. It's supposed to be special. It's supposed to be about family being together, and it will be. Next year, when things are different. What if things aren't different next year? What if Veronica still can't have a baby? Do I just keep hiding mine forever? My mother's expression shifted, and I saw a flash of something that might have been anger. Elena, you've always had everything come easily to you. School, work, Marcus. And now a baby. Some of us have had to struggle for things. Maybe it wouldn't kill you to think about someone other than yourself for once. The words hit like a slap. Everything came easily to me. I thought about the months of morning sickness that left me unable to keep down anything but crackers and ginger ale. The 36 hours of labor that ended in an emergency C-section while my husband was unreachable in a combat zone. The weeks of recovery while learning to breastfeed a colicky baby who seemed to cry every time I put her down. But I also thought about Veronitza's struggles, her losses, the pain she must be carrying. And I felt the familiar weight of guilt that the Whitmore family was so good at distributing. I don't want to hurt Veronica, I said quietly, but I don't understand why the answer is to hurt me instead. No one's trying to hurt you. Then what do you call this? My mother stood up, smoothing her skirt in a gesture that meant the conversation was over. I call it being a family. Sometimes that means making sacrifices for each other, but I'm the only one making sacrifices. That's not true. Isn't it? Veronica gets to have the family Christmas she wants. You and Dad get to avoid any uncomfortable conversations. Derek gets to support his wife without dealing with the complication of a baby being present. Everyone gets what they want except me, Elena. Her voice was firm now, the tone she'd used when I was a child and had pushed an argument too far. "This decision has been made. I'm sorry if you don't like it, but it's what's best for everyone. Everyone except me and Lily. You'll be fine. You're strong. You've always been the strong one." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something I'd been missing for years. She didn't see me as her daughter who needed support. She saw me as the family member who was supposed to provide support to everyone else, the strong one, the one who could handle anything. The one who didn't need taking care of. And what if I don't want to be the strong one anymore? I asked. "Then I guess you'll figure it out," she said. "You always do." We stood there in the perfect living room with its perfect Christmas tree. And I felt something fundamental shift between us. Not break, that would come later, but shift, like tectonic plates moving deep underground before an earthquake. "I should get going," I said finally. "It's a long drive back, and I want to get home before dark." "You don't have to leave right now. You could stay for dinner." "No, I don't think I could." I turned to go, and that's when I noticed what had been bothering me about the Christmas tree. The ornaments were wrong. Not wrong exactly, but incomplete. Every year since I was born, my mother had hung a special ornament for each family member. Mine was a silver angel with my name engraved on the wing, a gift from my grandmother when I was 3. It had hung on that tree every Christmas for 27 years. This year, it wasn't there. I stood in the doorway of that perfect living room, holding my perfect daughter, and realized that my mother wasn't just uninviting me from Christmas. She was erasing me from it entirely. "Mom," I said, and my voice sounded strange to my own ears. "Where's my ornament?" She followed my gaze to the tree, and I saw her face go carefully blank. "I must have forgotten to put it up this year." "You forgot?" "I've been very busy with the preparations." "You forgot my ornament, but you remembered everyone else's." "Elena, please don't make this more dramatic than it needs to be." "You didn't just forget," I said, turning back to face her. "You deliberately left me off the tree." "Elena, you're reading too much into this." "Am I? Because it looks to me like you've already erased me from the family Christmas. You've already started pretending I don't exist." "That's not what this is." But we both knew it was exactly what this was. "I do want to be a grandmother." "No, you want to be Veronitsa's children's grandmother. When that happens, if that happens, you want me to disappear until it's convenient for everyone else for me to exist again." "Home," I said, "to start my own traditions, like you suggested." "Elena, don't leave like this. We can figure something out." "No," I said, reaching for the door handle. "We can't. Because this isn't really about Veronitsa's fertility struggles. This is about the fact that you've never seen me as someone worth prioritizing. And now you want me to teach my daughter that lesson too. That's not fair." "You know what I regret? I regret believing that things would be different this time. I regret thinking that having a grandchild would make you see me as more than just the family member who's supposed to handle everything without complaining. You're my daughter. Of course I see you as more than that." "Then prove it," I said. "Call me tomorrow and tell me you changed your mind. Tell me you want me at Christmas. Tell me that your granddaughter matters as much as your other daughters' feelings." "Elena, because if you don't," I continued, "if you really meant what you said in there, then you're right. We should pretend I don't exist, permanently." I walked to my car without looking back, strapped Lily into her car seat, and drove away from the house where I'd spent the first 18 years of my life. It wasn't until I was halfway home that I realized I was crying. But it also wasn't until I was halfway home that I realized something else. For the first time in my adult life, I was free to make my own choices about what family meant. And I was going to make choices they never saw coming. The drive home was a blur of tears and determination. But instead of wallowing, I did something that shocked everyone. I called Marcus's parents in North Carolina and asked if Lily and I could spend Christmas with them. They said yes immediately. With genuine joy, that Christmas became magical. Real grandparents who celebrated Lily, not erased her. I started a blog about military motherhood that went viral. Within 6 months, I had sponsorship deals and a book contract. When my family saw my success on social media, they tried to reconnect. But I'd learned something powerful. The family that truly wants you never makes you beg for a seat at their table.